What if everything you thought about the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation was wrong? Veterans inside the locker room are speaking out, backing Shedeur Sanders in ways the media isn't showing. Contracts, hype, and outside opinions are clashing, and the real story behind who starts Week 1 might shock you. Shedeur Sanders isn't just another young quarterback trying to make a name in the NFL. He's a name that carries weight, expectation, and controversy all at once. Born into football royalty as the son of Deion Sanders, Shedeur had a spotlight on him from day one. But unlike many who ride family fame, he's carved his own path, blending natural talent with relentless work ethic. Some critics tried to write him off, claiming his career was defined by who his father is. They said he'd never survive the pressure, that the comparisons would crush him, that the hype would backfire. But those critics are missing a crucial point. Shedeur has been quietly building respect inside locker rooms and on the practice field, game by game, throw by throw. At just 22 years old, he's already shown flashes that make even veteran teammates take notice. Reports from inside the Cleveland Browns suggest players like Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward see something special, someone willing to outwork, outthink, and outlast many of the veterans around him. And it's not just the natural skill. Shedeur takes the time to connect with teammates, to build chemistry and trust, which in the NFL is as valuable as a cannon arm or pinpoint accuracy. He's learning how to manage the locker room, how to handle pressure, and how to lead, skills that often take decades to develop, and he's doing it while still in the early stages of his pro career. Yet the story of Shedeur Sanders isn't without its drama. Media narratives have often painted him as either a legacy quarterback or a risky experiment, while analysts argue over whether he deserves the starting role. Rumors swirl about contract priorities, potential trades, or whether the Browns might explore other quarterbacks in drafts and free agency. Inside sources, however, consistently highlight the same theme. Shedeur isn't just on the roster to sit, he's earning the job. Coaches, veterans, and even trainers note his dedication, his preparation, and the way he absorbs every piece of coaching. Some fans believe his youth is a liability, while others say it's exactly what the Browns need: fresh energy, fearless decision-making, and the potential to grow into a star without carrying decades of prior mistakes. But the real question isn't hype or speculation. It's simple: can Shedeur Sanders, with all the eyes watching, turn promise into performance when it counts most? That's the story we're going to unpack: the journey, the drama, and why the Cleveland Browns quarterback battle is far from over. While media headlines and fan debates often focus on hype and family legacy, the real story of Shedeur Sanders is being written inside the locker room, and the veterans aren't holding back. Players like Shelby Harris and Myles Garrett have been speaking out, and what they're saying shifts the narrative entirely. According to these insiders, Shedeur isn't relying on his last name. He's earning respect the old-fashioned way, by showing up early, working harder than most, and dedicating himself to mastering every detail of the game. Shelby Harris recently went viral after detailing exactly how much effort Shedeur puts in. He described a young quarterback who, despite all the attention and external pressure, prioritizes preparation, relationships, and growth. Harris emphasized that Shedeur takes time to bond with teammates, something that might seem small but is essential for building trust on a football field where every split-second decision can make or break a game. For a 22-year-old stepping into one of the toughest positions in sports, that maturity is rare. Myles Garrett echoed the sentiment, highlighting that Shedeur has flashes of brilliance that show he can handle pressure. Garrett and other veterans are giving him a real chance, noting that he's not just another draft pick or a name in a lineup. He's someone who has earned the right to prove himself in live games. Some fans have questioned whether he's ready, but when the guys who practice alongside him, who see him grind day after day, say he's prepared, it carries weight. Inside the Browns facility, the message is clear: Shedeur's work ethic can't be ignored. Reports suggest he's often the first in the building and among the last to leave, spending hours reviewing film, learning plays, and building chemistry with receivers. Deshaun Watson, while more established, reportedly supports the younger quarterback's development, helping him adjust to the professional pace. And that mentorship from veterans is invaluable. It's one thing to have talent, it's another to convert it into leadership and results under pressure. What makes this dynamic even more intriguing is how it contrasts with the outside chatter. Media speculation, rumors of other quarterbacks, and social media debates can dominate the conversation. But inside the Browns' walls, the story is different. It's about respect, credibility, and effort, and Shedeur Sanders is quickly checking all those boxes. Some fans believe the hype might be overblown, but veterans see the grind, the focus, and the commitment. And in the NFL, that's often more important than the spotlight. Shedeur isn't just trying to survive scrutiny, he's quietly winning trust, proving that dedication and preparation can outweigh hype and showing why the Browns' quarterback conversation might finally have a real answer. Myles Garrett doesn't speak lightly, and when he does, every word carries weight. Recently, he sent a message about Shedeur Sanders that was subtle, but to anyone paying attention, it was impossible to ignore. Garrett didn't make headlines with flashy statements or dramatic takes. Instead, he focused on what truly matters: opportunity, performance, and earning respect on the field. In an interview, Garrett addressed the quarterback situation in Cleveland, specifically the challenges of multiple players competing for the same role. He didn't hand anyone the title of starter. Instead, he highlighted that every quarterback has to earn it, including Shedeur. Garrett acknowledged that Sanders had flashes that suggested he could handle pressure and deliver when it counts, but the message was clear: proving yourself isn't about hype or family legacy, it's about results when the lights are brightest. What makes Garrett's words resonate is his perspective as a veteran and leader. He's seen rookies come and go, some overwhelmed by expectations, others failing to connect with teammates, and he knows what it takes to earn credibility in an NFL locker room by publicly supporting Shedeur while maintaining a measured tone. Garrett signals confidence in Sanders without creating unnecessary pressure or hype. This is a nuanced endorsement, one that insiders understand immediately. Garrett also emphasized fairness and opportunity. He made it clear that the Browns organization will give everyone a chance to prove themselves, but first in line is the quarterback who has demonstrated commitment in practice, effort in preparation, and leadership off the field. And by placing Sanders in that conversation, Garrett is essentially saying the young QB has earned the right to compete at the highest level. Some fans may have dismissed the statement as vague or neutral, but in the context of team dynamics, it's a strong vote of confidence. Garrett's comments aren't about media narratives or social chatter. They're about the reality inside the building, where trust, work ethic, and performance dictate opportunity. He's telling everyone watching that Shedeur Sanders has shown the discipline and drive necessary to succeed, and that the locker room sees it. By framing his support this way, Garrett manages to motivate without overhyping, protect the young quarterback from external pressure, and subtly shift the narrative in Cleveland. The takeaway is clear: the Browns' veterans, led by voices like Garrett, are quietly but firmly positioning Shedeur Sanders as a quarterback to watch. This is more than just commentary. It's an endorsement that could shape the team's direction as the 2026 season approaches. The $40 million quarterback in Cleveland has been a hot topic for months, and it's impossible to talk about Shedeur Sanders without addressing him. Deshaun Watson's contract and presence in the locker room create a unique tension, not the kind that sparks fights, but the kind that shapes the entire quarterback conversation. Some fans are quick to assume that money equals opportunity, that a massive contract guarantees playing time, but that's not how the Browns operate behind closed doors. Veterans like Shelby Harris have been clear: work, consistency, and relationships with teammates matter far more than any dollar figure. Watson's contract is huge, yes, and the investment is undeniable, but in the eyes of the locker room, dollars don't automatically translate to respect. Harris has repeatedly praised Shedeur's dedication, pointing out that he arrives early, stays late, and builds connections with every player he meets. That kind of leadership and commitment can't be bought, and that's what makes Sanders' situation so compelling. The dynamic is fascinating. Reports and rumors swirl around the NFL Combine, with names like Malik Willis and Anthony Richardson thrown into speculation about the Browns' future quarterback. Some media outlets focus almost entirely on the $40 million figure, suggesting that Watson's paycheck should guarantee starting status, but the players inside the building see it differently. Garrett, Harris, and even Deshaun's peers understand that leadership, work ethic, and performance are the real currency of credibility. In other words, money matters off the field, but effort and skill matter on it. Shelby Harris has also highlighted a key point that's often overlooked: the mentorship and guidance Sanders receives. Watson's experience and visibility might cast a long shadow, but the young quarterback has had veterans who genuinely support his growth. From learning the playbook to handling pressure situations, Sanders has been building his foundation with eyes on the future. And while Watson's $40 million deal might grab headlines, the locker room is paying attention to the intangibles: trust, consistency, and the ability to inspire teammates. This scenario sets up a delicate balance for the Browns. They need to honor contracts, yes, but they also have to field the best team possible. It's a classic case of money versus merit, and the players themselves have made it clear that merit wins when the whistle blows. Shedeur Sanders may not have the largest contract in the room, but according to Harris and others, he has arguably earned the most respect. The narrative outside the building can be loud, flashy, and sometimes misleading, but inside there's a different story unfolding. The $40 million elephant in the room isn't controlling the locker room's perception. Sanders' work ethic, poise, and quiet determination are. Veterans like Harris and Garrett are sending a message. The Browns reward effort and results, not just salary. And as the 2026 season approaches, that message could define the team's quarterback hierarchy in a way that no contract alone ever could. The NFL Combine always stirs up drama, and this year the spotlight on Cleveland's quarterback situation has been impossible to ignore. Rumors are flying about Malik Willis, Anthony Richardson, and even late-round sleepers, with analysts debating who should get a look and whether Shedeur Sanders is truly ready to lead. Social media is ablaze, fans are taking sides, and every clip of Sanders at practice is dissected as if it were a Super Bowl moment. But the most important voices aren't on Twitter, they're inside the Browns' facility. Reports claim that scouts around the league are quietly split. Some believe Sanders has all the tools to thrive, while others doubt his readiness because of his youth and the shadow of his famous father. It's the classic NFL narrative: hype versus reality, name recognition versus performance. Rumors suggest that teams are preparing to use their picks on quarterbacks in hopes of outmaneuvering Cleveland, but those discussions are happening hundreds of miles away from the actual locker room. And insiders say that outside speculation has very little impact on what actually happens on Sundays. Combine chatter tends to exaggerate every slip and amplify every highlight. One source suggested that Shedeur's mechanics were under intense scrutiny, while another argued that his leadership and ability to command the huddle set him apart from the rookies being hyped at the Combine. Analysts debate endlessly about arm strength, mobility, and decision-making, but what rarely gets reported is the most crucial factor: relationships with teammates and coaches. And veterans like Shelby Harris, Myles Garrett, and Deshaun Watson's own peers know exactly what that means. A quarterback isn't judged by media hype. He's judged by how he shows up day after day, drill after drill, meeting after meeting. G. Bush even emphasized this point. Forget the talk about Malik Willis or Anthony Richardson. Forget the flashy names being tossed around in mock drafts and pundit opinions. What matters is who earns the trust of the players and coaches on the field. Sanders has been consistently proving himself, not just in stats, but in the intangibles that rarely make headlines: being first to arrive, last to leave, building chemistry, and staying composed under pressure. That's why insiders argue his starting job is his to lose, regardless of what the Combine speculation says. The contrast is striking. Outside the building, it's all speculation, hype reels, and social media debate. Inside, it's about work ethic, accountability, and respect. And that's where Shedeur Sanders shines. He's navigating a storm of rumors while quietly solidifying his position. Some fans believe the Browns could bring in a new quarterback, draft another rookie, or shift strategies based on outside pressure. But insiders insist those moves will never override the meritocracy built within the locker room. The Combine may generate headlines and spark debates across podcasts and sports shows, but for Cleveland, the conversation has already moved beyond rumors. The veterans have spoken, the coaches have seen the effort, and while the world speculates, the Browns are quietly preparing to roll with Sanders, letting his work speak louder than any analyst or draft hype ever could. The outside noise is loud, but inside the path is clear, and Sanders' trajectory is firmly in his own hands. The dynamic between rookies and veterans in the NFL is always tense, but in Cleveland, it's becoming something of a storyline on its own. Shedeur Sanders, the young quarterback, is stepping into a room full of seasoned professionals, some of whom have seen it all. The question isn't just about talent, it's about respect, authority, and earning your spot in a hierarchy that's been established long before any rookie arrives. And make no mistake, in football, rookies don't just inherit roles. They have to claim them. Veterans like Myles Garrett and Deshaun Watson set the tone for what it takes to succeed in that locker room. Their endorsement carries weight because they're the ones facing the hits, making the calls, and seeing every detail of a teammate's preparation. Some fans believe this dynamic could cause friction, a young quarterback trying to assert himself while established players wonder if he's ready to lead. But insiders say that Shedeur's approach is different. He isn't trying to dominate the room with bravado or lean on his famous last name. Instead, he's quietly building trust, showing up early, staying late, and making sure he's part of the team's rhythm. That subtlety has raised eyebrows because it shows a maturity beyond his years. Reports claim that some rookies stumble in this phase, letting nerves or hype dictate their actions. But Shedeur seems to understand the balance. He's learning from veterans, taking in advice, and translating it to the field without losing his own identity. It's a delicate dance, a rookie whose too passive risks being overlooked, while one whose too aggressive risks alienating those he needs most. Observers suggest that Shedeur has managed to navigate this better than most, winning the confidence of key players who will decide, when game day arrives, whether he truly deserves the reins. Locker room veterans also notice when a young quarterback invests in relationships off the field. Reports suggest Shedeur spends time connecting with wide receivers, running backs, and even the coaching staff in ways that aren't publicized. Some fans believe this is minor, but insiders argue it's critical. In the NFL, trust is everything. If a quarterback isn't on the same page with his teammates, even a strong arm can't carry the team. Shedeur's consistent engagement signals to the veterans that he's not just here to play, he's here to lead. There's also an unspoken test: resilience under scrutiny. Rookies are constantly judged by media, social platforms, and fan chatter, and it can create invisible pressure in the locker room. But veterans like Shelby Harris and Garrett Bush have spoken publicly about Shedeur's work ethic and composure, essentially giving him a protective endorsement that can quiet outside noise. That backing doesn't just boost his confidence, it subtly shifts authority in his favor, making it clear to everyone that the room supports his role. Yet the tension between youth and experience isn't fully resolved. Questions linger. Will other veterans push back if early games don't go perfectly? Can Shedeur maintain authority while still learning from those around him? Some insiders speculate that even small mistakes could test the balance, while others say his preparation and humility will carry him through. And that's the intrigue. Every snap, every huddle becomes a potential turning point in a rookie's rise versus veteran authority struggle. For Cleveland, this is more than a storyline. It's a test of culture, patience, and judgment. The rookies are ambitious, the veterans are seasoned, and the quarterback in the middle has to prove he can command both respect and results. Shedeur Sanders is navigating this tightrope, and the way he handles it could define not just his season, but how the entire Browns locker room functions for years to come. Every observer, every analyst, and every fan is waiting to see how this delicate balance between rookie ambition and veteran authority finally unfolds. Organizational power plays in the NFL often go unnoticed by fans, but in Cleveland, the stakes are higher than ever. The Browns aren't just managing plays on the field, they're managing egos, contracts, and reputations. Behind closed doors, decisions about who starts, who sits, and how the team projects itself publicly carry massive weight, far beyond what appears in highlights or post-game interviews. And make no mistake, Shedeur Sanders is at the center of one of the league's most delicate balancing acts right now. Some reports suggest the front office is split on how to handle the quarterback situation. On one hand, there's undeniable talent and potential in Sanders. On the other, there's the pressure of expectations from fans, media, and ownership to show immediate results. Sources claim that even subtle decisions, like who gets reps in practice or who calls the audibles on certain plays, are being carefully scrutinized. It's a chess match where every move signals something: confidence, caution, or doubt. And insiders say that while Sanders has earned respect from players, the executives are weighing long-term strategy against short-term optics, which could create tension that never hits public headlines. Contracts and money add another layer of intrigue. Deshaun Watson's $40 million deal is not just a figure on paper, it's a statement about organizational priorities. Some fans believe that putting Sanders on the field too soon could create friction over salary hierarchy, endorsements, and perceived value. Analysts speculate that the Browns' front office is walking a fine line. They want to develop Sanders while also protecting the investments already made. Every decision: who throws first in practice, who runs the team's huddle, even who gets media exposure, feeds into a subtle power struggle that fans rarely see but players feel acutely. Coaching plays a massive role in this equation. Kevin Stefanski has to balance nurturing a young quarterback with maintaining veteran trust. Sources suggest that even small missteps, a miscommunication during a game, a practice plan that favors one player over another, can ignite locker room tension. Reports claim that coaches have been deliberate about integrating Sanders gradually, giving him leadership opportunities without alienating veterans. Some insiders even speculate that certain drills and assignments are designed as both skill development and a psychological test, gauging how Sanders handles authority under pressure. The media adds fuel to the fire. Rumors about trades, starter controversies, or draft picks often leak before the front office has made any decisions. Some fans believe these leaks are strategic, aimed at testing public perception or shaping narratives in Sanders' favor. Analysts argue that the Browns are managing multiple audiences simultaneously: the locker room, the fan base, and league observers. Each statement, each practice rotation, and each interview is part of an organizational signaling game that determines who truly holds power internally. Then there's culture. Power isn't just about contracts or reps, it's about perception, respect, and the stories that circulate inside the building. Players like Myles Garrett and Shelby Harris serve as unofficial arbiters of credibility. If they endorse Sanders, they effectively transfer authority and protect him from potential internal pushback. But insiders caution that this endorsement is conditional. Every rookie misstep is magnified in a room where veterans and coaches are watching closely. That makes Sanders' every action on and off the field part of a larger organizational trial by fire. Ultimately, Cleveland's quarterback situation isn't just about who throws the ball. It's about how a team balances youth, talent, experience, and power. Every decision, from contracts to reps, from practice drills to public statements, is carefully calculated to maintain stability while preparing for the long term. Some speculate that the Browns' handling of Sanders could set a precedent for how they manage emerging stars in the future, blending authority, respect, and business strategy in ways few fans fully appreciate. And that's what makes this power play so compelling. Every snap, every practice, every meeting is a move in a high-stakes game of control. The front office, the coaches, the veterans, and the rookie are all pieces on a board, and one misstep could ripple through the locker room, affecting morale, trust, and ultimately wins on the field. Fans see the highlights, but the real story is the careful negotiation of influence behind the scenes, a story that could define the Browns' next decade as much as any touchdown or interception. When the smoke clears and the highlights fade, one question remains. Who really controls the narrative surrounding Shedeur Sanders and the Browns? On the surface, it might seem obvious coaches make the calls, players perform, media reports the news. But insiders say it's far more complex than that. In Cleveland, the story isn't written by the press or the social media pundits. It's shaped in the locker room, in private meetings, and in the subtle signals that players and executives send each other every single day. Some fans believe the front office holds all the cards. They control contracts, draft picks, and the official depth chart. It's true that decisions about starters and backups are ultimately theirs to make, but sources suggest that the influence of veteran players is equally critical. When someone like Myles Garrett speaks publicly or in-house about Sanders, that endorsement carries weight that no press release could ever match. It reassures teammates, it calms concerns among staff, and it quietly sets the tone for who earns respect on the field. And it's not just Garrett. Shelby Harris, Denzel Ward, and other respected veterans act as the unofficial gatekeepers of credibility. Their words, actions, and even body language can legitimize a rookie in ways money and contracts cannot. Coaches, meanwhile, walk a tightrope. Kevin Stefanski has to maintain authority while also nurturing talent. Reports claim that even small decisions, who runs certain plays in practice, who gets reps with first-team personnel, or who is asked to lead drills, are deliberately calculated. They send signals to both Sanders and the rest of the team about trust, expectations, and the pecking order. It's a subtle power game. Too much pressure too soon risks alienating the locker room, but too much caution risks slowing the growth of a potential franchise quarterback. Some insiders even hint that certain practice rotations are designed as psychological tests, gauging not just skill, but leadership, resilience, and the ability to earn influence quietly. Then there's the media. Analysts, YouTubers, and journalists often appear to dictate the narrative from outside the building, but many insiders caution that these stories are filtered through opinion, speculation, and rumor. Some leaks may even be strategic, meant to shape public perception in favor of Sanders or pressure the front office into decisions. Fans on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram react instantly to every highlight or controversy, but the real influence lies in how the team internally responds to these narratives. A viral clip might spark outrage, but the locker room response, who defends Sanders, who stays silent, ultimately determines whether the criticism sticks. Social media amplifies the stakes. Fans have become part of the narrative, and their outrage or praise can create pressure that influences coaching decisions. But insiders insist that while external opinions matter, they rarely override the internal signals. It's a delicate balance between external perception and internal reality. One misstep on the field or in interviews can shift this balance instantly, and every stakeholder, from GM Andrew Barry to veteran linemen, watches closely. In the end, controlling the narrative isn't about headlines or viral clips. It's about trust, influence, and respect inside the organization. Sanders' future isn't determined by clicks or commentary. It's shaped by who backs him in the room, how he responds to pressure, and whether he can earn his place among veterans while navigating contracts, expectations, and scrutiny. Every throw, every meeting, and every decision sends a message, subtle but decisive. So when fans argue about who should start or whether Sanders is ready, the real story is often invisible. It's the quiet negotiation of power behind the scenes, a complex dance where players, coaches, executives, and even the whispers of the media all play a role. And that's the fascinating truth. The narrative isn't just controlled by one person or group. It's shared, contested, and constantly evolving. for Shedeur Sanders and the Browns. Winning the story might be just as important as winning on the field.